Hi guys. Welcome back to the Self-Indulgent podcast. I am your host, Mariah, and it's been quite some time since I filmed or done the podcast consistently. I haven't done a weekly episode since April of 2024. I tried to come back a few months back, and it just wasn't time. I felt the real urge, push, and pressure to put something out. Part of me desired to come back, so I pushed myself to do that, and I just think I still was not ready yet. I needed to figure out what I was doing. Where I was at with myself was a big part of it. I think I'm ready now. I'm ready to come back. I don't know that I'm going to hold myself to a standard of posting every week. I did it strong for a while. Grad school is getting busier. My goal is to listen to myself and just really be real and honest about where I'm at and go from there. I do plan on putting more energy, action, and intention behind the podcast because I miss doing this a lot. We're back. I wanted to do a catch-up episode because I was going strong for quite a bit. The last episode I put out a few months ago, it was giving depresso. It was giving depresso espresso. No, it was definitely giving. I was not great. I was not well. And I talked a little bit about that. I was starting to feel a little bit better, but man, the ups and downs were really intense for me. I had been struggling a lot with things that had happened over the last year. In my last episode, I talked about like an ego death. And honestly, the more I'm moving through it, I think I just really crashed out. I definitely crashed out over the summer. I think the nervous system was way too activated and then it crashed. Like that's how I'm understanding it now, but that's okay. Also, during these last few months, as I sip on my coffee, I invested in an espresso machine, and that was probably my favorite adult investment to date. That was my best adult purchase. It has saved me so much money on coffee, and it is so good. So that's the Nespresso plug. If you can get it on sale, do it. It's worth it. I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, let's... So much has happened since we last sat down together. Not even just for myself, I think globally, a lot has happened in the world. I wanted to take a moment to recognize that because I think we are living in, I know they say this, I feel like they probably say some of this every decade, but we are living in unprecedented times, right? I've been reflecting on my middle school and high school experience, thinking about history courses I've taken, or even just one social studies course in middle school and how the Constitution works and laws and things like that. Every year they talked about the Holocaust and learning about propaganda and never thinking about not realizing that is happening in your own country and just realizing, especially with social media and the mass amount of it, how, oh no, like there's also propaganda here. Like it's all over the place. And I think that also is what is creating a lot of the divide. We're hearing different things from different sources. We're not all listening to the same thing. It's playing a large role. And it's just had me really reflected on like, wow, like we have to do our own research. We really have to try to understand what's happening. It's a lot of work to do your own research and really figure out where your head is at. So let's start with intentions. I think I want to start each episode with an intention for the episode for myself. I was going to do this off camera before I started the episode, but I actually think that I would like to do it the beginning of each episode because it's something that I'm finally understanding, like the power of intention setting and why people talk about it so much. It's something that I'm starting to bring into the room with clients when I do therapy. I'm finding it very powerful. And so my intention for today's episode is to speak openly and honestly, to be as authentic as possible and to slow down. I get excited. I'm nervous as I come back today. It's okay to slow down. I don't have to rush through anything. So those are my 3. I'm actually going to add one more: patience. I'm going to remind myself that I can be patient, especially, like this, it's not ideal setup for me right now. The sun isn't out. This is my first time back. Technology tends to be a little funky sometimes. Just having patience and grounding in that. So those are my intentions for today's episode. Let's talk more about intention and what I mean by the power behind intention setting. It's something that over the last 2 weeks, fairly recently, that I feel like I'm starting to understand more and implement, in that I struggle with expectation. I live in expectation often, and I've recognized that the last year. Honestly, the breaking down of a huge expectation that I had is really what sent me to the crash out, right? Like, I had this idea of what something was going to look like for me, and it was actually something that I never thought was on the table, was never in the cards for me, and it happened. And so it was shocking, and it was really painful for me to get through, and it took a year for me to get through it, like almost to the date. It took a year. And now I'm finally at peace with it. I feel so good and in power right now that it doesn't really matter to me anymore. It doesn't have power over me anymore. I've moved through it, and I feel really good about where I'm at right now. I think I've healed through it. The reason why I bring up expectations and talking about intention is because I think we think sometimes the line gets blurred, and we have to recognize that, no, there's a difference between intention and expectation. Expectation is often aligned with external goals, external gains. It's very outcome oriented. It involves a lot of assumption. For example, if you're getting a gift for someone, you're getting a gift for somebody and you're like, oh, they're gonna love this. The look on their face is gonna be, oh my God. And then you get it to the person and they don't have the reaction that you expected or assumed that they would have. And that can be crushing, right? And then you're mad at them. Sometimes you take it a step further and then you're mad at them because they didn't have the reaction that you assumed they would have. So expectation and assumptions really do fall in a similar category. Why I think it's more important to ground yourself in intention is that instead of getting hyped up around how you think somebody's going to respond to something or how somebody should respond to something, set the intention of what was the intention behind getting the gift in the first place. That's like you were doing something nice for somebody else. Your intention was to make somebody happy, so I'm going to get them this really cool thing that I think they'll like, right? Just the baseline of, I'm going to get this person a gift because I want to make them happy. That's your intention. That supersedes any outcome you wanted to do that for them. Oftentimes in the crushingness of like, they don't like it, or even if they didn't like it, they weren't excited as you thought they were going to be. We totally bypass the intention of like, and it crushes us. But you spent your hard-earned money to get that person a gift, right? I'm talking about gifts because we are in the season of gifts. That's a loose example of what I mean by that. We totally bypass the fact that, wow, the intention was to do something nice for my friend. Grounded that. You did that regardless of outcome. Another example that has really helped me, I have a few more that I think about that I've been using for myself, right? Right now I have to start working on dissertation. I finally finished the draft for my first chapter last night, which was a huge deal. I was supposed to start working on this last year. My proposal was due last May. I came back this fall, completely changed my topic. So am I behind? Yes, very much so. But I mean, not critically behind. I wouldn't be defending until next winter anyway. I'm supposed to be working on that. That is a massive project. I've never done a dissertation before. I went straight from undergrad into this doctoral program. So I've never done a master's thesis, none of that stuff. I didn't even have to do a final paper for undergrad. So this dissertation with no real guidance from the school is intense for me. There are some programs that work with their students there are programs that work with their students from first year on dissertation. They'll have a course on it. We ain't got that. We don't got that luxury. It's just something that they don't do. It's been overwhelming for me. Even trying to get support from my chair and committee has been an issue for me, because I'm like, no, I need you to explain it to me like I'm in first grade. What am I doing? Like, I don't know. I understand what a dissertation is. I understand a general consensus of the sections. And also, I don't know how to start. This is like this is a lot. There's a lot going on here. It's been stressing me out. And with that, there's been a lot of avoidance. Coming back to intention has helped make it less scary, because I was approaching it before, whether that be for dissertation or studying for some exam, right? I'm like, in my planner, right? I'm going to study today. I'm going to study for a certain amount of hours, or I'm going to work on dissertation for this amount of hours, right? That's fine, like the way you would plan your day, right? Yes, and also it was still overwhelming to look at and think about. It was so big, right? And so what I started doing was getting more clear on my intention. The mind will start to play games with you, right? I'm having thoughts in the back of my mind like, oh, you think you're going to learn all this today? That's not going to happen. There's so much content to go over. You're going to study all that today? That's the feedback loop that starts to happen, and that's what causes the avoidance. And so when you approach it from this idea of like, no, actually, what is the intention for this study session? The intention is I'm going to take my time. My intention is to listen to my brain and body when they are fatigued and when I am done. I will focus on these topics and I will do my best. To be able to ground myself in that really helped get rid of the procrastination and anxiety surrounding doing those things. When it came to dissertation, it was, okay, my intention is to fuck around and find out. So like, that's kind of with dissertation, that's what it felt like in the beginning. First, it was like, let's get an outline. Let's figure out some form of an outline, whether that be with asking AI to help me figure out an outline, get an example from my chair, starting there, and then breaking down the outline bit by bit, saying something like, I'm not going to finish all of chapter 1 today. Let's start with my intention is to focus on maybe these 3 tasks, and then checking in with myself, my brain, capacity, body, if I can do a little bit more. It makes you more present. It really just takes away a lot of the anxiety, which I am run by anxiety. I've had it all my life. There are periods where I try to deny that that's what it is, and it's like, no, girl, the nervous system is in survival mode, and that's just what it is. Another example of how I ground myself in intention, this one probably sounds a little weird, but again, I think I'm using it in a way that it really is alleviating anxiety. So for example, if I'm waking up in the middle of the night and I have intense anxiety, I'll wake up in the middle of the night, come back in the bed, and then I'll feel up. Know that I'm kind of tired but can't sleep. Then the thoughts start going, right? We go down the thought spiral, and then I'm stressed about that, spiraling. And so I'm like, I got it. And then all of a sudden the voice goes, you got to go to sleep. You got to go to sleep. 5 minutes have passed. You got to go to sleep. You got to go to sleep. You're not sleeping. And so what I started doing was, Mariah, all you can do right now is close your eyes. Don't worry about how many hours you have left to sleep, because that's where the thoughts will go as well. Don't worry about how many hours you have left to sleep. Right now, your intention is to rest. Period. Rest can look like laying there with your eyes closed and just breathing. Your intention is just to rest. That's it. Doesn't matter how many hours you actually sleep. You're just trying to rest. And that can look like a lot of different things. You don't have to get up right now. So that would help. The thoughts would stop and I would be gone. So I think it really has helped mitigate a lot of the future outcome thinking, anxiety driven thoughts that have run me for a really long time. So this is why intentions are so powerful, because it grounds me into what's real for me right now. It takes a lot of the pressure and anxiety off of whatever I'm about to approach and do. Honestly, it's part of the reason why I'm back today, to even be able to tell myself it does not matter what you have planned. Just show up and be you. That is the intention, to connect with others by being yourself. That's what I ground myself in. It took me so long to come back because I really just sat in this place of thinking like I needed to have it together. I needed to have it together. I needed to have moved through things, healed through things, so that I can be able to tell you guys and help you guys. I think of what myself would be. I felt like I needed to know things. I needed to have a certain level of intelligence or knowledge. A lot of that was in the unconscious. It wasn't active thoughts. What I just said to you was not an active thought. The way I noticed it over time and understood where the unconscious belief was I realized the rigidity around what I thought I needed to be able to film, in the way that I would stress myself out about planning a topic, picking a topic, and having to research the topic. And I realized that all I was telling myself was, oh, you think you're not smart. Like, you think you have zero value in your word right now. You think you have to level up or reach a certain thing to have value to give to others. And it's just like, that's very much not true. But that is what I was telling myself in some of the behaviors and rigidity. And it was definitely like an unconscious belief that I was able to unearth. And I was like, nah, girl, what? It's just so crazy to think that. So something I'm definitely still healing and moving through. It has been nice to, again, reground myself in intention, to be able to just show up so differently than I have before. I saw a TikTok the other. I think that's also part of why I ripped off the Band-Aid and I started posting on TikTok again the last few days, is because I saw a TikTok and he ate me to filth. I almost feel like I need to bring it up. I'm gonna add him. I'm gonna plug him. Because if you want to ever be ate to filth and be moved to do some shit, he's your guy. Especially if it comes to like putting yourself out there in content creation. I gotta find it. I definitely saved it too. But I was like, excuse me, sir? Please get off my neck. Let me find it. And these were all messages from my best friend. She just hit me with back to back, like, slap in the face, slap in the face, slap in the face. And I was like, damn, girl. And she was like, listen, you haven't been on TikTok in a while. This was not meant to be consumed in a single day. And I was like, that's a good point. What side of TikTok are we on today? I have to find it. I fear I went too far up, which I did. Oh, okay.
Media that you have never heard before, unless, of course, you follow me already, in which case you've definitely heard it before.
Justin Schumann, I believe, is his name. His ad on TikTok is Justin Schumann Official. Justin, SCHUMAN Official. He ate me up, and his caption of the video is, if you've hidden yourself for so long that you've killed your personality.
This is the shit that I've been screaming for the last 3 years. I want you to think about something. Being yourself, right? What the fuck does that really mean?
So he talks about essentially what does being yourself mean, and he was basically going on this rant of like, well, if you've grown up in a space or places, space or places where you could never be yourself, then of course when you turn on a camera you don't know who you are, or with others you don't know how to be yourself.
You be in your life out in the world is really just a system of habits that you started forming when
he said, how you are in the world is really just a system of habits that you formed over time, and that kind of creates your personality. So
you were young. And when you were young, you probably went through some trauma, some nonsense. At one point, your ego told you were too much or not enough. And you got really good.
You've probably had some trauma or nonsense growing up and eventually got really good at showing up the way others needed you to show up, changing into whoever you thought you needed to be for others to be happy, right? So if you've been doing that for years, that is who you are now. So it's going to take a lot of uncovering to do that. He says more in the video. You guys should definitely go check it out. There's a few videos that he made that really just, honestly, I might have to credit him for filming this today because he kind of ate me up. But yeah, he definitely, oh man. So, and I also bring that up to say, it's going to take work to undo a lot of those habits and beliefs. But I think the first step is being aware. For me, being able to ground in intention, I think has helped me connect to me a little bit better, a little bit more as I continue to show up. Now I try to think about, how would I say this to my best friend? Because she gets a very unfiltered version of myself. And I think part of the reason I was also scared to come back is because if I'm going to be this authentic version of myself that has been told growing up that, oh, you're too much, you're too dramatic, you're this, you're that. And I've internalized a lot of that stuff. We are also living in an age of cancel culture. And not gonna lie, some of y'all are scary as... Again, grounding myself in intention kind of overrides a lot of that stuff. Is fearful or anxious. I do want to be my authentic self. It's exhausting to play a character and not know that you're playing the character. But once you understand and realize that you're playing a character that has been manufactured by how others have treated you, then it's just like, oh, fuck this. No. So it's time to come back to self. It's time, which is part of why it's called self-indulgent. We got to come back to self. Lots of limiting beliefs that I've been working through. It got to the point, the other day that I feel like I'm all over the place. It's okay. I got to a point where I was focused on something a lot these last few months for school. Like, I had to get through it. So everything stopped. I was posting vlogs on this channel while I wasn't doing the podcast, which was nice. I think it was helping me try to be more of my authentic self as well. So I started to plant seeds of that work in doing vlogs. And then I had gotten wrapped up in what I needed to for school and I had to let it go. I stopped going to the gym. I was also still working this semester. I didn't quit my job. I stopped going to the gym to prioritize this. In the beginning of the semester, I started yoga and Pilates a little bit. I also hurt my lower back. It was part of the reason why the gym wasn't a thing. But I had to focus on this one thing for school. And I was good. Throughout the semester, I did much better than I thought I would. It was fine. But I did have to let a lot of things go. A lot of things go that I feel like made me me. And that was hard. Because what happened when the semester ended and I got through it and everything was great, all of a sudden I felt lots of anxiety and I felt a little lost. I felt behind. I think all the things that I put on hold that I deeply desire to do, it came rushing back. I felt like I was behind. I felt like I let the ball drop. I was like, how am I even going to do this? I want to do it. I feel like I gave up so much for this stuff. How do I get back into these things? I felt like I was not committing to myself. This is the anxiety in my head. Anxiety is helpful sometimes. She's doing a lot. Honestly, at this point, I'd rather feel than not feel. I feel like I've lived in very numbs and dissociative states the last few years. I would rather feel than not feel at this point. It's just, how do I move through the feeling? We'll talk more about the nervous system. I've been learning a lot about the nervous system. Next semester, I'm taking a course called The Neurobiology of Trauma. So that's going to be all about the nervous system. I'm very excited for that because I think it's really important. We've heard about fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, or appease. People like to say both. Just to clarify, we've all heard fight, flight, freeze. Fawn, or appease, is a different survival instinct to appease essentially whoever's around you, to help. Like, it's honestly kind of it's like people pleasing, and that's a way of survival. It's a nervous system response, and all of them are supposed to be protective. But yeah, with that being said, I would rather feel than not feel, right? I was very anxious about all that stuff. I felt very behind, and I felt the pressure to do it, but also was scared to do it. I don't know. I felt like I have a strong desire to do differently. The sky is the limit. Anything is possible. I believe that, and I feel like I haven't been living in that. I feel like I haven't kept promises to myself. I've had a hard time trusting myself and doing some of the things that I say I'm going to do and want to do. It just felt like I had to stop for a whole semester, and it really hit me hard because I'm just like, what, like, I wanted to do these things. What happened, right? And also need to give myself grace, right? Like, at the end of the day, I'm in grad school. It takes a lot of time and energy. I tend to forget that. But I just felt like I wasn't doing anything. Like, what am I doing in life? I'm not doing anything. Something that my partner did the other day, which I really needed. I very grateful to him. And he is also part of the reason why I think I'm here today. But he basically, I was telling him and being vulnerable about why I was so anxious recently, how I was feeling about myself. And he got off of work and he came into the living room and he was like, all right, we're going to do something. And I was like, what? He came out with these flashcards and a pen. And he was like, so you clearly forgot who the fuck you were. So we're going to sit here and list all of the things you've achieved and accomplished or done in the last 10 years. So we proceeded to list all the things that I've done. Before we even started, I started sobbing because I was very touched, and it made me, I felt very seen and heard in that moment. And I started crying right before, and he was like, he was like, do you want a hug? And he hugged me and he was like, what did he say? He said, oh, I'm sorry, we didn't even start yet. It was very much a moment. And so we started listing things, and we would go back and forth. And at first I was like, and then as time went on, I started really thinking of things in the last 10 years that I've done. And it was very helpful. And it was little things. And even outside of the big things, I started thinking of all these little things, right? Things that I did. And I was like, yeah, but I didn't finish it. And he was like, so what? You still did that. It really helped put into perspective, like, I am living life. I have been living life. And it's been hard. I've had a hard time figuring out the emotion piece and how to be with myself in that. But I have been living life. I highly recommend, if you can do it with somebody who knows you and loves you, it's really helpful to get the ball rolling, because once he got the ball rolling, I started, I was even just things like, oh, I learned how to play pickleball. There was just things that it's just started coming up, and I was just like, wow, the version of myself 10 years ago, so 16-year-old me, would probably be in shock. I started crying again because I was like, wow, 16-year-old me would probably be in shock at all the things that I've done, or at least tried to attempt to do as well. So that was really helpful and grounding, and I think that all of you should do that exercise. I did not think it was going to have the impact that it did on me, and now I have that list of things that I can go back and look at and reflect on, and it really made life feel bright again. And that sky is the limit. And I think when we have these limiting beliefs, right, it not only does it limit us in just how we move through life, it just, some of it makes us want to control things, right? We want to be in a state of control. When we live in expectation, we want things to work out a certain way. We want things to happen a certain way. And that's so limiting. It's so limiting because I don't know what the universe has in store. I may have a desire and a wish, but I should have zero control in how that happens, right? The universe can have infinite possibilities on how something could happen for me. And I'm sitting here trying to make this puzzle piece fit that doesn't fit. It doesn't fit because that's just not how it's supposed to happen for me. When we're so focused on expectation and outcome, it really just limits the height of what's possible in life. I think what I'm ready for in 2025 is to just finally let go and surrender. The astrology girlies have been saying it. It's time to surrender. I feel that. I got to stop worrying about the how and really just think about my what. Just think about the what I desire, my intention, my why, and let the how figure itself out. Just let it figure itself out. My job is to take things day by day. I think the last thing I want to talk about is somewhere else that I've been thinking about recently. Listening to Justin Schumann, I realized that I really desire connection, community. I want to be known for me. I don't mean like on a grand scale, like I want to be famous, but I want to be deeply known by others who are close to me, my community. I want to know others and have that type of connection. I realized in listening to one of his videos that it's me. I'm the problem. I actually don't let people get close to me. I don't let people get to know me. As extroverted and exciting as I can be, I always feel a lack in the connection. I think part of that is because I'm not letting people fully know me, because I would have to show people the rough cuts. I would have to tell people when something's bothering me, speak up when something happens, let people know my ideas, let people know my preferences for things, what I actually want to do. I don't do that often, especially when meeting new people, because I want to be liked. I don't want to cause discord. I don't want to cause conflict. What I'm realizing is that I'm robbing myself from deep, authentic connection and just not showing up as myself. Whoever can't handle it, can't handle it. If we don't vibe, we don't vibe, but it's better to know that sooner rather than later. So that's something I've noticed is that I want to be known, but I don't let people get to know me. And I think part of that is because I'm still getting to know me with all these years of conditioning on how I think I should be, or how people have taught me over the years, especially during a developmental period in my childhood, of being told this is too much, this is too dramatic, you should or shouldn't do this. I've realized there's been a lot of silencing happening globally. Me personally, in these institutions, like there's just so much silencing happening, and it is something I'm realizing I'm very much like, fuck that. I don't want to be silenced anymore. I have a very averse reaction to being silenced, and I get angry. My fight, flight, or freeze fawn tends to be fight. I mean, it's obviously situationally dependent, but normally I get pissed off. Like when anxiety kicks in and a survival mode is really on 10, I don't physically fight anybody, but I get pissed off. I might argue with somebody closer to me because that's a more unhinged version of me, but I'd be pissed off in my head. If you heard the thoughts. Oof. That's typically my response. Or fawn. In professional and school settings, fawn is probably something I go back and forth on. It really just depends on the who and the what. I think in the silence, anything that brings up injustice and things like I get angry. And so I think it is really just time to shed away the persona or the conditioned version of myself and start to find who I am at the core. That is why this is the Self-Indulgent Podcast. We're getting to know ourselves to better live authentically and deal with life as it comes up, right? And we're ever changing. We're always going to have to get to know ourselves. So it's a journey, baby steps. I'm very happy to be back. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm excited for our next conversation. I have no idea what it's going to be, and I think that's okay. I don't have to have it all figured out, and neither do you. None of you have to have it all figured out. I urge you to get curious about the difference between your true self and this version of yourself that has come up through patterns. of conditioning and things you were told in childhood. What are some of those unconscious beliefs, right? If it helps, I don't know if you guys saw Inside Out 2, but that is real. There are definitely those beliefs they hide. You don't even know that they're beliefs, and they're there. Sometimes we got to try to dig them up so that we can heal through them, and it can no longer have such a strong hold on us. It might always be there. You might hear mumblings and rumblings of it, right? But we can definitely quiet it down a little bit. Thanks so much for listening or watching if you're watching this on YouTube. And I will see you guys next time. I don't know when this will be out, but I hope you guys have happy holidays and a happy new year.